Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to learn algebra. Today is our lesson number 52. We are in the process of learning how to multiply and divide algebraic expressions. How to multiply and divide algebraic expressions. Day number 51 through 80. Today is our day number 52. We just started this topic yesterday. So we are doing problems which are very simple, very straightforward, but as we get close to day number 80, these are going to get a little bit more complicated. Here's the first problem for today. 3a squared b times c squared times 2 times a cubed times b squared times c to the fourth. Well, what do we do? Well, 3 times 2 is 6. That was the easy part. Then we have a cubed and a squared, which is a raised to 2 plus 3. Because this is a and this is a, since the base is the same, all we have to do is simply add up the exponents, 2 and 3. Then we have b raised to first power and b raised to second power. b raised to the first power plus b raised to the second power. And then finally we have c squared, which is c raised to second power, and then c raised to fourth power. That's it, that's our answer. That's our answer. Let's simplify it. 6, a raised to the fifth power, b raised to the third power, c raised to the seventh power. Voila. That's your answer. If you were to multiply all of this out, this is what we'll get. Because b times b squared will be b times b times b, and so forth. Let's do one more. Next one. That's the end of this one. Next problem. We get 5a squared b times 2b squared. 5a squared b times 2b squared. Now we understand when we say 5a squared b, technically what should be said is 5 times a squared times b. But nobody actually says it like that. Nobody actually talks like that in algebra. No mathematician will take the time to take the time to say it properly. They do not bother with it. They're too lazy. So instead of saying 5 times a squared times b, it's not that they're too lazy, their time is valuable. So instead of saying 5 times a squared times b, they simply say 5a squared b. And you have to understand that since nothing is being said in between, it's understood that they're being multiplied. Because had they been, if you were supposed to add them, they would have said, instead of this being the concept, had it been this way, they would have said 5 plus a squared plus b. Or if it had been like this, 5 minus a squared minus b, or 5 divided by a squared times b. But if they're being multiplied, then for some reason they don't bother to say multiply when they're talking, when they're reading. So here, if I put down a quantity, this quantity is ABC. That's a quantity. It has a value. As soon as you tell me what A equals to, and as soon as you tell me what B equals to, and as soon as you tell me what C equals to, I can evaluate this expression. This is called an expression. This is an expression and a term. Because this expression only has one term. We learned all of that in the beginning of the course, day number 1 through 20. And if you do not know this basic stuff, you have no business watching this video on day number 52. If you want to learn the algebra the proper way, the proper thing to do is to start from day 1 and do all the work and go in a strict sequence. These are basic things. There should be no need for me to have to explain all these things over and over again. So this is A times B times C. This is how it's read. This is what it's meant to be, A times B times C. But you will never hear any mathematician say A times B times C. This is simply read as ABC. And when they say ABC, you have to understand that they are omitting the operation of multiplication. Had it been addition or subtraction or division, they would have said it. So the default is, so that's a good word, default. The default is that if nothing is said, then it's understood that it is multiplication. I'm looking for my list of words that we learned here. I'm going to make a note here. We're going to learn this word default in our vocabulary lessons. I don't believe I have covered it, and I'll tell you why I want to cover it in a second. For those of you who do not know what I'm talking about, in addition to these algebra videos that you're watching, on the YouTube I also have videos for geometry. So if you need help on geometry, you can just type in the same tag, KeshwaniPrep-geometry-day, whatever day it is, and you will learn to see all the geometry videos I have. I think right as of this point I have up to 30. And similarly, I have videos on vocabulary. Since I teach the prep courses for GRE, GMAT, SAT and TOEFL, the key ingredient of all of these exams, the English portion of this exam, is having a decent vocabulary. So I put together some vocabulary videos, and you can watch those, which is what I'm looking here to see if I have covered the word default. Because if I have not, which I don't believe I have, no, I have not covered. So I'm going to quickly explain to you what the word means, because it has two meanings. And I'm going to explain to you both the meanings of the word, and then I'll make sure that I cover them in my future videos. One meaning of the word default is how I use in this context. So default here is that if nothing is said, it's understood that it's multiplied. That's the default. A default is something that happens automatically. In your computer, there is a default drive where when you turn the computer on, the computer automatically goes to this particular drive. Usually it's a C drive, which is referred to as the default drive. Default simply means that if you don't tell the computer anything at all as to which drive to go to when the computer is turned on, then it understands that automatically it is supposed to go to C drive. If you wanted the computer to look for the stuff in something other than C drive, then you'll have to specify, go to D drive, go to A drive. Back in the old days there used to be floppy disk and so forth, where people would put in A drive. But the default is C drive. If you turn it on, it goes to C drive automatically. That's one meaning of the word default. So here, the default is that if I do not say anything, if I don't specify that they're being added or they're being subtracted or they're being divided, then it is understood that they're being multiplied. For example, let me give you a simpler example. For example, I have a quantity PQ. Or PQ what? What the hell? P plus Q, P minus Q, P divided by Q, P multiplied by Q, what? I didn't say anything, I just said PQ. Well, it's understood by default. Since I did not say anything, therefore by default, P and Q are being multiplied. That is the language of algebra. Do you understand? PQ simply means P times Q. Nobody is going to bother to say multiply. So here, for example, this thing has a value. For example, if I tell you that A equals 2 and B equals 5 and C equals 4, well, then ABC means 40. Because 2 times 5 is 10, 10 times 4 will be 40. ABC would equal 40. But I did not mean A plus B plus C. That's not what I meant, because if I had meant that, I would have said that. I would have said A plus B plus C. Or if I had meant A minus B minus C, I would have said that. Or if I meant A divided by B times C, I would have said that. But since nothing was said, it's simply ABC means A times B times C. That's the default. How did I get into this thing? I do not know. Let's erase everything here. There's a lot of things floating around. I'm going to erase everything. So here, 5 times 2 is 10. A squared, oh, there is no A in this one. Oh, that makes life easier. So it's just A squared is just A squared. And then we have B times B cubed, B times B squared, which is B cubed. B times B squared. See here I said B times B squared because we are learning right now, so I slow down. We didn't say B. Well, here you wouldn't say B cubed. Here you wouldn't say B squared because it sounds weird. Had it been a different letter, it would have been okay. It would have been okay to say A B squared. But since it's the same letter, B times B squared. You have to be a little flexible. So it is 10 A squared B cubed. 10 A squared times B cubed. What number was this? Actually, I haven't been putting any numbers here. Let's do one more, shall we? Let's do one more. Or maybe not. Let me take a look at the clock in the back. I'll be right back in 1 second. I'll be back in 1 second. Let's do one more. I have lost track of where we were. 3a squared b cubed x times 7 a cubed b squared x squared. Let's see what that gives us. So 3 times 7, and then we get a squared times a cube, which is a raised to 2 plus 3, times b cubed times b squared, which is b cubed b to the third plus b to the 3 plus 2, times x squared, x and x squared, x to the first power, which is simply 1 plus 2, and that's your answer. That's it, that's our answer. So it is 21 a to the 5th times b to the 5th times x to the 3rd. Now I'm going to write this answer one more time. This was not obligatory. As I explained already, the multiplication sign is not obligatory. Most of the time, most mathematicians leave it out. So it's going to be written as 21 times a to the 5th times b to the 5th times x cubed. And most of the times you will not hear them actually specify out loud times. They would not say times. They would say it like this: 21 a to the 5th b to the 5th x cubed. And since I didn't say nothing in between, it's understood that they're being multiplied. All of these quantities are being multiplied. Okay? Let's call it a day for today. I'll see you tomorrow on day number 53. Okay? Bye.